Allman in the Morning. Common Sense Radio.
I'd be getting me sick.
Don't blame me.
Blaming everybody.
I'm not sick.
Katie was coughing earlier, too.
What?
You were.
No, he wasn't.
Well, maybe I was just imagining because it's
No,
like an infirmary in here.
I was coughing. Don't blame it on me.
Typhoid Denise over there.
Whatever. I'm not that bad.
You have you quarantined. Remember the iron lung? I don't need him. Chris Wallace, everybody. Good morning. I remember when I was a kid, Chris Wallace, I was just mesmerized by the iron lung for some reason. Have you seen an iron lung before?
An iron lung, like for people with polio?
Yeah, they'd have them in this tube, and it was like an iron lung. I couldn't get over that.
It's not exactly a laughing matter.
Well, I know.
Let me tell you something, because I'm that much older than you, but when I was a kid in the 50s, people who had polio lived in a iron lung, and polio was really scary to people.
I know.
And I will tell you that I was in the first sort of group of people, the first generation, that had polio vaccines, and we used to have them in our public school. And I will never forget that we had a long line, our whole class, we lined up, 50, 100 kids, whatever, in the auditorium, down the aisle, and we would wait to go up on the stage to get our shot. And I'll never forget, I was waiting, and we were all a little nervous. We had never had this vaccine, and I'd never had a shot like that except in a doctor's office. And the woman, I'll never forget this. This literally has got to have been 60 years ago. And as I'm waiting to walk up on the stage, the girl right in front of me has the shot and passes out.
Oh.
And I'm like, what the? In any case, I think it just was nerves. It had nothing to do with the shot. I went ahead. I had the shot, and I never was in an iron lung. But that was really scary. The whole idea of polio back in the 50s, because it was out there and people got it and people's lives were completely ruined. But you have fun with the iron lung, because that's really allowed.
No, I no, I just yeah. I didn't want to go. I wouldn't want to.
You got nothing, dude. You got nothing.
I wouldn't want to go near polio because I can't ride a horse. So anyway, I'm amazed.
I didn't get that. Explain
what?
that to me.
Huh?
What?
The whole no, it's just it's polo. I was making just
polio. Oh my!
I know.
Anybody who is as offended by this line of humor as I am, please call the Jamie Allman.
You're a small petty.
I know.
You're a small petty man.
I'm sorry. Hey, by the way, can I ask you a technical question?
It depends. If it's on polio, probably not. Go ahead.
I saw the CNN story. And they had like a telephoto lens of some argument that was being had with Steve Bannon and
right.
Ivanka Trump backwards to the audience to the window, and they aired it. And like, well, first of all, that seems kind of dangerous to me to have that kind of access. I realize the windows are bulletproof, and I get that, but I don't think I've ever seen a TV camera peering into the Oval Office in that fashion. Is that something new, or how am I?
No, let me explain how that happens. And we used to do it back in the ancient days, back in the 80s. You're not allowed in that area. You'd have to be out near the Rose Garden to get that shot. But occasionally the press is escorted out there, and I suspect what happened was that they had been escorted out there to get the shot of the president walking from the Oval Office to the helicopter. It was just when he was about to take off to go to Mar-a-Lago. And, sometimes you're out there, and obviously anything is fair game while you're out there. And he was having this big argument, the president was, with Bannon and other people inside the Oval Office. So they were just smart enough to turn their cameras, instead of straight ahead, to the right. But, it wasn't like they were able to walk around, and they were under escort at that point.
Yeah, I noticed they acted like they knew what the argument was about, which was
Yeah, I kind of laughed at that too.
yeah, it's like they don't even know, but they just like were making it up that there was an argument about.
But I have to say, it was pretty unusual. You don't see a shot like that from the Oval Office very often.
Right, and then subsequently, there was a picture of Steve Bannon going into the rear of Air Force One, going up the steps there, and they acted like that has never happened before. But doesn't that always happen where the staff goes in another entrance?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. And I never rode on the 747. I only rode on that old 707. But I think staff was allowed. Generally went up the front. I mean, obviously they didn't go up with the president. You get the photo op of him. But as I remember, staff would go up the front, and the people that went in the back usually were Secret Service and the press, because, frankly, they were the ones seated in the back of the plane.
Oh, I see. Well, and
the staff would usually go up the front, but, again, not with the president, but either before or after.
And then did the president's dog and cat go through the flap in the side there of the Air Force One, that little flap thing?
All right, play the tape.
I'm just kidding. I was just wondering whether or not they...
you don't even have the tape.
I do. I gotta find it.
You, my friend, are a dope.
I was just wondering if there's like a doggy door in the Air Force One. So it's been a very interesting week. This healthcare thing is really interesting because a lot of people, particularly listeners to this show, are a little confused as to why the GOP, after 8 years of not really doing anything, suddenly are in a hurry to get this thing passed, and it's not acceptable to some individuals.
Well, there are a couple of things here. I think a better question than why they're in a hurry to get it passed is why they didn't have their act together. I mean, from the moment that Trump won in November, first of all, they've had, 7 years to complain about it and pass 50 repeal bills in the House. Second, since Trump was elected in November, they knew they were going to do this, and it was pretty early on they decided this was the first order of business, and there are some technical reasons why this needed to go before tax reform. But, it's a mess. There's no question about it. It's a mess. It is very unpopular among a lot of conservatives. And if he were to lose this, and I'm not saying he's going to, but if he were, and at this point it's not a sure thing that he's not going to lose it, it would be a mess for him. It would really be bad because, and it would be bad for Republicans because, Republicans in Congress, not Republican voters, because this is what they have promised their constituents, their voters, for 7 years. Just give us, first they said just give us the Senate, then they said just give us the House, then they said just give us the White House. Now they got them all, and you're not ready for prime time? That's not good.
Yeah, I certainly don't understand it. I mean, the cynic in me is saying that it doesn't appear that the Republicans, at least the Ryan Republicans, really care one way or the other whether there's tanks or not. I know they do, but technically what happens is if it doesn't go well, it's all going to be blamed on President Trump, correct?
Yeah, but I think but he's not running for 4 years. If you're a Republican who ran in a district, let me just say this. If you're a Republican and you ran in a district, and one of the key things that was for almost all of them is repeal and replace Obamacare, and it doesn't get through, you're in real danger. And depending, and here's one of the issues, because if it goes through or doesn't go through and you voted for it, and a lot of people think it isn't conservative enough, you're going to have a primary challenge, and people who said, well, you just voted for Obamacare light. I mean, they may get in trouble if they vote for it and it does get through.
Wow.
Because of the fact that, it'll be seen. This is the problem. It's like the old joke about, the dog chasing the car and what happens when it catches up with the car. Here they've had their chance to pass Obamacare, and the problem is the second it's passed, it becomes not Obamacare but Trump care. And Republicans will then own it, and they'll be responsible for it. And there are a variety of aspects, because, one, what's the cost going to be? There are a lot of people concerned it doesn't lower the cost enough. Two is coverage. What if you're one of the millions of people? I'm not saying this is going to happen, but what if you're one of the millions of people who got coverage under Obamacare, and now you lose coverage? You got to know that the media is going to go nuts with that and tell, here's the story of Chris Wallace, and he had coverage, and now he doesn't have coverage, and he had this illness, and now it's going to go untreated. Talk about a made-for-TV story. So this is this is not easy. This is complicated stuff. And part of the problem is, as bad as a lot of people think Obamacare was, you create an entitlement, you create dependencies where people think, well, now I've got coverage under this, and 20 million people did gain coverage under both the Obamacare and the expanded Medicaid, which is part of Obamacare. And if you try to take that away or alter it, it's really hard to do.
Trapped. They're trapped. Now, here's the thing, though. President Trump has been actively engaged in his approval of this plan, and I'm wondering why that is, because, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's what he wants even, and I'm a little surprised at how he's saying, hey, this is great, but didn't he talk about how it's negotiable, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of negotiation.
I think that what that means is he just wants the process to move forward. Nobody thinks this is the final bill, but the thought is get it through the committees, maybe get it through the House, maybe you amend it in the process of that, then you're going to get it to the Senate, and it's going to be amended a lot. Then you're going to have to go back to the House so that they agree to it. So, the word or the phrase that's sort of operative here is work in progress. Now, this is a complicated thing to do because what the conservatives want, the real hard-line conservatives, I don't know about Heritage Action or Freedom Works, is a much more of a repeal, not as much of a replace.
Right.
And that you really repeal this, and there are going to be millions. I'm not taking a side on this. I'm just saying there are millions of people who are going to lose coverage, and people are worried about that.
Yeah,
politicians are worried about that.
No
doubt. I'm sure a lot of the people who receive it are worried about that. Let me ask this: when your listeners call in, because I'm curious about this, what is their attitude towards what they're seeing so far? Do they think it's okay? Do they think it's a mess?
I think
it's Obamacare light. What?
I think a lot of people are slightly confused about the direction it's taking. There are a lot of people who also are okay with what's going on right now, as long as the mandates are taken off and the employer mandates and those kinds of things are taken off. And I think there are some people who clearly are on the side of the Rand Paul wing in saying that, these tax credits, that's a subsidy. That's basically a government subsidy still. And so they elected President Trump because they voted for him ultimately because he said it was going to be repealed and replaced.
Yeah, but what do you do? I mean, here's the thing. What do you do for people? I mean, there's a real issue here, which is, do you care about universal access at all? And some people would say, no, we just don't care, and we don't think that there's a national right and an entitlement, if you will. I'm saying it in a different way,
right,
to access to health care. But if you do, it's pretty hard now to take that back. Not that everybody was insured anyway, but if you got to give people who can't currently afford health care and don't qualify for Medicaid, they're not that poor, they don't come under that income level, the subsidies were a way to get them to participate. And if you don't do that, and you don't do the tax credits, which I agree it's a different form of subsidy. They got an explanation for it. But what do you do? There are going to be people who still can't afford it. And do you want to see millions of people cut off access? Again, I'm not taking a side, but it's a very difficult political issue.
Well, would it be millions of people really cut off access, or would it just be millions of people who cut off access to government health care?
Well,
I mean, because
the point is whether this wasn't government health care; it was government subsidy for
right,
private health care. But what do you assume some of those people who were uninsured wanted it but couldn't afford it?
Right, and then some of them just want the government to pay for it and not them. And I think
that's right,
and that's not the government's job.
And let me tell you, once government starts to pay for it,
oh yeah,
then to tell them they can. I mean, it's like Medicare.
Believe me, yeah.
You're going to. I mean, not saying that that's part of this deal, but if you suddenly were to say, well, we're not going to pay for your health care as it is under
right,
Medicare, some people would not be happy with that.
It's the trap that Calvin Coolidge warned us about in 1924. I'm just saying.
What did he say?
He said, if you can...
I'm old, but I'm not that old.
It was the first time a president had ever been recorded both in film and in audio. On the White House lawn, he gave a big speech about how you got to be careful. You continue to grow government, and pretty soon the citizens of the U.S. are working a portion of their week every week for the government as opposed to themselves, and that's the rub of a growth in government. It was 10 years after the federal income tax was installed, and he warned about
how... that is true. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I mean, what I don't know the average, but I think it's April or May that people basically were working for the government till April or May till they pay off all of their taxes. Right. And it's only, about a third of the way through the year that you're actually working for yourself and you get the money. Obviously, it's prorated out,
right,
withholding and all that. But in terms of the financial obligation for most people, it's like about April before you stop paying for the government.
We should have.
But again, it's very complicated, and you don't think that CBS News is going to do a story about the person who had health care and it was saving their life, and now they don't have it?
Oh yeah, we should have listened to Calvin. Didn't do it.
Right, but I do like the fact that he was recorded, because if he weren't, TV would really be bad. I mean, imagine if we couldn't record the president.
Right, exactly. All right,
or anybody else.
So you have guests this Sunday? What's up?
Well, we have one, and it's Jim Jordan, who was really maybe the leader. He's not no longer the chairman, but really the leader of the Freedom Caucus, and he has been raising holy, unshirted heck about this bill, and just says it isn't. It isn't a repeal of Obamacare. It's a kind of a continuation. And he's one of the lead. We think we're going to have somebody from the White House who will sit there and explain and try to defend it. But we'll have Jim Jordan, who much more than you or I really can cite chapter and verse in why this isn't the right way to go.
All right. Well, listen, we'll be watching, and I'm sure it'll be as entertaining as always. And thank you for the entertainment this morning, Chris Wallace.
Thank you, Jamie.
All right, you're welcome. At Fox News Sunday, you can check him out. Thank you. It's Chris Wallace, Common Sense Radio.